Good day, people. Can you see me? There we are.
There we go.
How we doing? All right, people. Welcome to episode number 3 of Down to the Core podcast with me, Amit, and our friend Baz.
Me, Amit.
Me and Baz. So let's try again. Me, Baz. Amit's on his way in, and today we have our guest, Jessie Ball. We're on episode number 3. And remember, guys, you can catch up with these episodes on Spotify, iTunes, and you can also catch our episodes on YouTube. Is that right?
And Apple as
and
well.
Apple.
And Apple as well. So visuals are on YouTube, everything else audio. As John said, Amit's on his way. So Amit will sneak in a bit for those that are watching on YouTube, and you'll hear him on all other podcast platforms. So, yeah, let's get started.
Okay, so here we have a friend of mine, eagerly awaited. We've got Jessie Ball. Right, I've known Jess for a few...
It's been quite a while, hasn't it? It's been quite a few years, maybe... It probably is about, I'd say maybe 6 years, maybe longer. It's probably a bit longer than that, isn't it?
Before the competing started.
That's it, before the competing days, yeah.
So, like, I've known Jess, like, obviously from, like, the gym circuit. We come from a small town. A lot of us, we all switch from one gym to the next, and, like, and so, like, we always end up bumping into each other.
Yeah.
I've recently seen you make a transition from just, like, being in the gym to... jumping on stage and doing coaching and everything else. So rather than me try and like tell everybody all about it, how about if you tell us about a little bit about what you've been doing.
Sure. So I started training when I first met you, really, didn't I? At the first gym we ever went to, and I just kind of got into fitness just to. I think most women do, don't they? They might go into the gym to kind of shape up or lose a little bit of weight or whatever the goal is. I think people just get into the gym for whatever reason that's personal to them, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I started training and I kind of just learned everything myself, watching YouTube or watching people in the gym, like looking at a girl thinking, oh, that looks good, I'll do that. You know, you just copy workouts, and that's all I did. And I just started copying, you know, random people on Instagram. And I thought, yeah, I'll give that a go. And then I started to just build up kind of a passion for fitness. So I started training, didn't take it too seriously, but I was serious enough to be consistent with it, if that makes sense. And then we went into lockdown and I was like, right, what am I going to do? I've got no equipment, I've got nothing. So I had like a little bench made for me, like a wooden bench, had a squat rack made for me. I got some plates, I got some weights, and I got my own little setup at home. And all I did throughout the whole lockdown was train outside, even when it was snowing. When it was snowing outside, I was still training. I don't know, I was doing like dumbbell chest press on the bench outside when the snow was like dropping on my face. But I just really was consistent with it through the lockdown. And actually I made a decent amount of progress without even being in the gym kind of thing. So when the gyms reopened, I thought, you know what, I might give this a bit more effort, a bit more time. So I started training in more of a bodybuilding style where I didn't have a coach or anything. I was just trying to see what method kind of worked for me, really. So I started training at West Brom Foundry, started training there, and then I've been at Foundry Wolverhampton. And as you said, because we're in such a small town, you end up flicking between all the different gyms. And then I got my coach. It's been about 2 years, 18 months, 2 years since I got my coach. And I was like, right, I want to give this competing a go.
Yeah.
So we did like a little diet just to see kind of what category I might fit into and what I kind of looked like, what I needed to improve. And then we spent a bit of time bulking up, as you say. So we did that. And then he was like, right, we're ready to start prep. And then I started, and then the rest is as it goes, really. So, yeah.
Wow.
Nah, you know what? Because I love like hearing like your story. Because I think like even when you're talking about the lockdown stuff, a lot of us like who spend like a lot of time in the gym. We do it there like for our own like kind of sanity, our own kind of sanity. I remember like suffering like a little bit through like the lockdown and watching people trying to sell dumbbells for like £300 and looking at like Argos benches for like now people just give us 600 quid and you'll be kind of thing.
Yeah, you can have a whole setup for like 4,000. Like, okay, sure.
And I do remember seeing like obviously on your page, and on the page I see quite regular. So I remember like seeing like the wooden setups.
Yeah, it was an old school setup.
Yeah,
bench, dumbbells, squat rack, plates, and that was it. And that's all I did. But I only realised how much the gym was actually maybe more so for your mind.
Yeah.
More than, I'm not saying more than physically, because obviously we do it for physical and mental, but I think for me, it was more of a mindset kind of helping with your mental health, really, just going to a place where you can just focus on something that's specifically for you. And just for that hour or that 2 hours that you're in there, you're working on just yourself. And then you can walk out of the gym knowing, you know what, I've just dedicated 2 hours of my day to better me. So I think that was something that got me going in the lockdown, just to keep my mind going, because obviously we had nothing to do. Well, I wasn't working because all the gyms were shut. So and I worked at a gym at the time. So I was just thinking, right, I'm gonna have to just train. And it did help mentally, even though you still had your struggles and stuff in the lockdown, it still helped. So
you just kept you ticking along, really, didn't it? As more so it's kind of you know, and helping and supporting you. And like I say, we just spoke just before the podcast, and we were kind of like, oh, I know you. Other than obviously doing my research, because obviously John wanted you on the podcast, and he says, like, guys, this is Jess. Look at a page, look a bit more about us, which I did, and I've got all questions I want to ask you.
Oh, sure.
And so we said that we might have seen each other in Exercise for Less.
That was it.
When it was.
I thought I definitely recognised you, but it was because that was my first gym.
Yeah.
And I actually joined it on accident. I don't know how you joined a gym on accident, but I joined it on accident. There's a gym, you know, the Thorns Road. Where the park is. Opposite there was a gym. It's not there anymore, but it was like a little
pool. Did it have a pool?
Yes, it did.
Yeah, that's the one.
I was meant to join that gym.
Yeah.
And I thought it was called Exercise for Less, so I've gone online, joined, and I turned up there.
It was the name changed over. It was close to that name.
Yeah,
it was.
Okay. It was something. Yeah. And I turned up and I was like, right, okay, I've just signed up. They were like, your name's not coming up. Like, are you sure? Showed them the thing. They were like, no, I think you've joined the wrong gym. Realised I joined Exercise for Less. But you know what?
No way.
I'll go and give it a whirl. And it was actually okay, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was actually a good little gym. So that was my first gym, and that's how we were, like, kind of met you. And then I saw you here today, and I thought,
that's why I saw you. Even when I saw you on your profile and stuff, I kind of thought, where have I seen her before?
Yeah.
But obviously, then and to obviously now, and seeing what I saw on social media, you've done some amazing stuff in terms of transformation in your physique and how you portray yourself. I think it's really inspiring for not just women but for men as well. You know, it's I think it's a great thing. But my first question for you is, you're an online coach as well. So I kind of introduced myself a little bit before we started, and because I'm mostly face to face, my work is through therapy and through what was what was the transition in like to really be online and being a coach? What were the struggles? How was it for you to do that?
I think what I found is typically I work with females. That's just how, well, the type of people that I attract to work with me. So I find that the women that I tend to work with want to be face to face with you in the gym for that comfortability element. You know, they want somebody with them in the gym, not just to show them what to do and help them transform, but actually to have somebody there just to be familiar with the setting, to help them feel comfortable, help them fit into the gym. So from going to that to online, you obviously don't get that, because you're letting them just do what you're telling them to do, but you don't have that face-to-face interaction. But again, when we went into the lockdown, face-to-face interaction wasn't a thing, so you had no choice to try and transition things online. You didn't really have a choice because you couldn't do the face-to-face, so you had to find another method. So I think the struggle for me is I really enjoy face-to-face interaction as well. So when I was trying to coach my clients that I've worked with face-to-face online, I found it hard because I'd want to see them and I'd want to physically be there to say, you know, we're doing this exercise today, or just having that general chat. And I think you can get more out of people sometimes face to face when you're actually physically seeing them. So I did find that hard. But then when you're working with beginners, I do think the face to face interaction is better to an extent.
I agree too.
Because if you've got a beginner and you're sending them a training plan and a nutrition plan, they're going to look at that and think,
what the hell?
I don't know what this means. I don't know what to do with this. And then their progress isn't going to be what it could be, because they don't actually understand what's written down on paper. So I think that was my struggle, because I do work with beginners or females that are at the start of the journey once where I was, essentially. And I know that I would have benefited from face-to-face interaction rather than kind of the online. So I think that's the main struggle, really, just that transition to face-to-face service to an online service. But when you've worked with people long enough, you can actually get really good results with them online, because you can actually say, you know what, you can do this on your own now, and you do have to move back sometimes, don't you? You have to say to your client, you know what, you can actually do this without me standing with you in the gym saying, you know, do this. You have to be able to do it yourself at some point, because you're not going to be coached for life, are you?
Yeah, so true.
So you kind of have to just step back and let them do it. And I've had some great results online, so I think,
that's an amazing thing you just said then about allowing them to go, no, you can do it by yourself. But there's going to be, whether it's personal trainers or anything in any business, whether it's a sports massage person, all that kind of stuff, they bank on that regular income. To, you know, does that make sense? So they, you know, you've got to come every week. And realistically, no, you don't have to come every week.
I always say this to my clients. I always say, like, I don't want you, if I'm doing face-to-face PT, I'll say, I don't really want you with me forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I want you to be able to do it by yourself. If you want to keep coming to me because you love working with me, then sure. But I would eventually want you to at least be able to go to the gym on your own and maybe work with me as well. So I'm not saying I don't want to see you. Like, I don't want to see you.
Yeah, for sure.
What you said there was like, I do joke with some of my clients, and like obviously some of the ones I PT. And I say to them, listen, have you ever seen the film Nanny McPhee? And they're like, yeah. I said, well, she's got a saying. He said, well, when you want me,
I haven't seen it.
Never seen it.
I know what film it is. When you want me.
Or when you don't need me, I won't be something based like that. But I always say to them, like, listen, I don't want to be that person to be. It's great, I'll get paid from what you do, but like ultimately, I want to see you run on your own.
Yeah, that's the goal.
It's just like it's almost like having like bringing up a child. So I know you haven't got any kids, but bring up a child. You say, right, I'm going to help you here, and then now I want you just to go on your own.
You have to, because otherwise people become reliant on you. And I think that's why some coaches, if you're doing it for financial, we all do it for financial reasons, because obviously if you're making a living out of it, that's the goal, isn't it? But I think you have to look at the client, and eventually they want to live a lifestyle that they can sustain on their own. So you're essentially giving them the tools they need to succeed, aren't you?
Definitely.
You're just giving them the tools, you're just giving them the knowledge, and that's not you saying, I'm not going to help you ever again. It's just you have to give them the tools they need to.
I think that's a difference between like I think a good like personal trainer, someone like who's gonna obviously implement like obviously what they have, and being able to say to them like, well, you know what, this is what I'm training you for. I'm training for you to be better within yourself, but also to be strong within yourself, so you can do this on your own. And I do feel like a lot of the time, like they're not just. You'll have like deep conversations with like some of your clients. So some of the things that like some of my clients will tell me is nothing to do with the gym at all. And sometimes I leave them like, wow, we're only meant to be doing legs today. Like now, now like you've kind of like blowing my brain.
I always say that to my clients. So even if they end up listening to this, I'll get them to listen to this. We talk about anything. It can just be anything. And I think that's the difference between a good coach that's interested in the person and a coach that's actually not such a good coach, because they're not invested in the person, because you have to invest in the person.
Yes.
And sometimes that person might be coming to you for an hour of their day, but that might be the hour of their day that they look forward to the most.
100%.
And they might talk to you about, I don't know, relationships, work, what they're doing on the weekend,
their struggles,
their battles, all these things. And that might not necessarily be to do with the gym, but you're still getting that interaction with them, and then it's like you're working with them. It's a partnership, isn't it? It's not so it's that really. For sure.
Amit's just walking into us, so come and he'll be in just a second. So and that's the thing, and I think I've had everyone has it on different levels, every coach, and that's the difference between a coach and a personal trainer. You coach their all-round game. It's not just I'm going to get them to their physique.
Exactly.
And I've had a client, you know, that's come to me and walk through the door and they're crying because they've just had a really bad day. And I've sat in the car with them and just for an hour for their session, just to talk to them. But sorry, John, you
No. I was saying, like, I agree with you. I've been on exactly the same place. The other thing I was going to do, introduce our man. So here we have Amit.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Amit, Jess, Amit.
Have you? We were just I've just said that to you, haven't I?
Yeah.
We definitely know each other, and now I'm looking at you thinking, I definitely recognise That's just our area, though, isn't it? It's so small.
We live in such a small.
You do, it's probably from the same gym, though, right?
Yeah, it could be knocking.
You know, in Dudley.
Flex.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's it. That's what I try now. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I try now. Yeah.
So good to see you, Amit. Good to see you.
back.
Good to
No,
see
you
you.
too, bro. You too.
Good to see you. But yeah, we'll carry on. We'll carry on.
So, like, my next question is just because, like I say, I know you've made this transition from just like general gym training, obviously working out at home to getting a coach, and then now competing. You do figure. So you're a figure competitor.
Yeah.
Obviously, me and Amit, we've competed before, not in figure.
That's where Amit's been today.
His heels look way better than mine.
I was going to say,
But because one thing I've never known is the difference between like a figure, tone, physique, and there's about 3 different. There's about say 2 or 3 different categories.
Well, I think there's more than that. So like you've kind of got 3. It depends on the federation essentially that you go through, but you've got like your bikini categories, you've got your figure categories, then obviously you've got your wellness classes. So they're kind of the 3, and women's physique I think as well. But I compete with PCA, and I think I will continue to compete with PCA for as long as I decide to compete really. So they have a variety of different categories, whether it's like junior bikini, trained bikini, then you've got toned figure, and then you've got athletic figure, then you've got trained figure, and then you've got wellness.
This is why I get confused.
So I think figure is all about your X frame. So it's about having like, you know, a good top line, so your shoulders, and then you've got like a small waist, and then you've got well-rounded glutes and legs. And then like with your bikini classes, it's all about like your delts, again, small waist, glutes. And I guess bikini and wellness is similar, because I guess you could progress through bikini to wellness. But wellness is just like a next level size legs, isn't it? Like you see some of the wellness girls and I'm like, Jesus, your legs are huge. So I guess that's the difference. But with figure in PCA, you've got toned, athletic and trained. So toned is essentially like, I would say like a softer look, but actually it's getting a harder look as time passes on, if that makes sense. So if you look back at what toned figure was, say 5 years ago, it probably was actually very toned. Whereas now, it's not quite so toned. It progresses year on year, as in the standard will get higher. And then athletic, essentially you've got more muscle mass and you'll come in even leaner. And then trained, you've got more muscle mass and then you'll probably come in even leaner. So if that makes sense.
You know what? That's very interesting because I say, like, I've never really known. I think when you're doing what you'll do, obviously whatever like category, and you pretty much concentrate on that category.
Sure.
You'll look over here and look over there, like here and there. But it's like that's obviously that's not like
it's not really
our lane.
So
obviously, like mine and Amit's lane, we've got like obviously we do men's physique. But what you're talking about there now, and like I've spoken to other guys like who are bodybuilders, you've seen the change over the years. So it's not as it started out to be.
No.
Because originally, you'd agree, like I mean, like a men's physique was just like the beach look to the point now, obviously up to now, like the guys are like actually, because like, when I first got into it, like I got accused of being like a bodybuilder in a pair of shorts. I'm like, no, I'm not really.
No.
Like, I look quite big, and I was told like I'm too big, and then like obviously then it changed again, and they want you to bring it down. So because like you're still very early in your game, it's good to see that you've noticed obviously the change and difference.
I think something that was important to me was actually understanding bodybuilding before I decided to do bodybuilding. Because I think now you've got everybody wanting to do it just because you see on Instagram, oh, that girl looked great, I think I can do that. And I'm not saying that people can't do it, because people can do anything that they decide to do, but I think you've got to have some kind of awareness, or at least passion for it before you even decide to go into it, because otherwise what's the point if you don't love it? I always say, if you don't love it, what's the point?
So true.
It's pointless. Like, you're not going to go through a 20-week prep if you don't enjoy it. And don't get me wrong, it's hard work. Like, it's probably one of the hardest things. It is the hardest thing I've ever done, actually. But I loved it. Even the days where I'd be on the leg press in the gym and I would cry because it was that hard, but I still loved it.
So due to energy levels?
Sure, and like emotions and just all sorts of things. But I look back and think that was actually one of the best times of my life. So I think, but as you said, it changes with the times, doesn't it? And I guess like as times go on, the look does change. And I think people might decide to use assistance earlier on in their journeys, whereas people might decided in the past to use it later on, and all these things. I think there's a lot of factors that can affect the standard, I guess. So
this is all new to me. Like, you've all competed except me, so that's the only part of my game that I don't really know much about. So I'm learning with you guys talking. So, but I want to ask you, what or who has been your inspiration, whether it's in competitive or even in your personal life?
I think my parents really in my personal life, because they've always raised me to do something that I love. And it doesn't matter what it is, just do something that you love, because ultimately, if you love it, you're always going to follow through with it. So I think my parents just raised me to always be that way. So even though they don't directly inspire my bodybuilding, because they're not bodybuilders, but they inspire me to be the best I can be. So I think a lot of that came from like my upbringing and my parents and my influence around my family, just to be the best I can be, really. But in terms of bodybuilding, I wouldn't say I really get inspired. Like,
you better
men's
say
physique, men's physique athletes, all the men's physique athletes in the room right now. There's not anyone at the top of my head that I think, that person there inspired me to do bodybuilding, because I think I inspired myself to do bodybuilding.
I like that.
You know what?
I don't know.
I love.
No, that's a good way of looking at it.
I love the fact that you said that, because, like, I was asked before, like, who's your heroes? I'm like, I haven't really got any, because, like,
absolutely.
I appreciate what people do.
I was just about to say
I appreciate
that,
what they do. I appreciate where people have got to, but like, they are not me.
Absolutely.
I am not them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, some people don't realise like how hard obviously the prep is, and to get onto stage, how much you've actually done. So to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and go, you know what, you're all right, you are.
Yeah,
and like,
I did that. I achieved that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think that's what it is. I look at figure athletes in the pro leagues and I think, you are absolutely crazy. Like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
And I love your physique, and I would love to be you or look like you.
Yeah.
Not be you, but look like you. And I look at athletes all the time, when you're scrolling through Instagram, you think, she's wham, or like, something like that.
Yeah.
And I have an appreciation, as you said, to all athletes, and I think you look great. But I think I inspired my own self to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there wasn't anybody direct that inspired me to do it. It was just my own personal, I want to do this, so I'm going to inspire myself to do it.
I want to spin off on that. This is just for me, because I know people who have been on the competitive stage, and this for all of you to answer as well. What do you think people fail after don't want to do it again after the first time? Do you think it's because what you say is that if you love it, you'll continue to do it? Do you think they're just doing it to give it a try, or what do you think it could be?
I think people might just decide to do it because they want to give it one shot and think, you know what, I want to give this competing thing a go. I want to do it once and I don't want to do it again. And you know what? Fair enough. If that's your reason for it, then it is what it is. But I think once you've done it once, there's a lot of things, especially as a female athlete, that people don't realise that you go through. So like coming off my finishing my prep, I had to get myself back to a normal-ish shape.
Yeah.
So weight gain, hormonal changes, even things like my skin went to absolute shit. My moods were into absolute shit. I was gaining weight. I was wearing in the gym like clothes that would cover my whole body, because I was dealing with, I've gone from being this ripped, tiny person to bigger.
Yeah.
And I couldn't deal with it, actually, to start with. I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with it. So in my head, I'm thinking, I am never going to do that again if this is what I have to go through. And when you come through the other side, as I nearly have now, I would say, you get used to it. But that could be why people decide not to do it again, because they don't want to go through that mental battle.
Is there a warning? Is there a warning for that before you even start? Or
well,
not? There's nothing
no
like
warning.
that.
Nobody tells you.
No.
Nobody tells you.
You know what? Yes, like because that was actually one of my questions again. But no, not that. This is what she said. Like, it makes sense. But like, when I first started doing it, it's like my head was already in like a certain place anyway. But what you said, like, no one warned you about the end part of it, because because I think you two can agree with this. From the second you start prepping, how many times a week are you in the mirror? how many
A day,
Really?
more like a day,
A day?
more like a day,
Yeah,
or every
no way.
minute.
So I had to try and cut mine down to about say
Wow.
I had to cut mine down to about say, try and do it about say 3 times. And I tell you where the other time during my working day, the other time was when I used to go to like I used to deliver cars. I'd go like to a dealership, and like I'd be having a look,
Quick check.
having a quick check.
Yep.
No way.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I'd be driving. I remember like driving for ages, and I'd be doing this, going
Yeah.
squeezing,
Yeah,
doing this. This is just normal.
That's
And
crazy.
every other turn that you do, everything you do, you're always kind of angling yourself and feeling bits all the time.
Yeah.
First thing in the morning, scales, mirror. During the day, you're eating, and 12, 1 o'clock, you're checking again.
Yeah, sure.
And you do it so much that, like, and you do it over so much. You'd agree with this? You do it over like over a space of
It
becomes a norm, and
It's
then
a hard place to be.
it becomes like such of the norm, and then you don't realize like how kind of ripped and shredded you're looking because you look so much.
It's like
And
imposter syndrome.
it very much is. And then
Wow.
and then you look about say obviously coming towards time of the show, and you're still not pleased with it, even
Oh
though
no!
everyone's
No
going,
way.
"Nah," and everyone-
I
you,
remember.
So
Yeah.
you two being on stage, or
Yeah.
you three being on stage,
Yeah.
sorry. You've never been 100% happy when you got on there. Would you say you'd be happy, but not? Would there still be that kind of
I remember.
niggles?
I remember 2 days before my first competition. I was like to my coach, I can't do this. I was like, I can't do it. I was like, I'm not even ready. I would sit down and I'd be like, oh God, there's a bit of something. And it is just skin. It's actually skin. It is not fat. It's skin. And I was like, I can't do it. He was like, Jess, you're inside out. You're peeled. You're fine. Like, you are ready. I wouldn't put you there if you weren't ready. But you get so used to seeing yourself in that body, you can't see it for what it is.
Wow.
You can't actually see your shape for what it actually is. You only then realise when you come out of it, geez, I was actually ready. And I think that's what makes you a good bodybuilder, though, because if you're never satisfied, you won't stop working, because you'll always work, because you're never satisfied, are you?
That's very true.
But the latter part of the end of competing, my coach did actually warn me, and he did plant the seed in my head that this is going to be hard. And he said, the thing that he said that stuck with me was, when you finish your prep, that's not the end of the prep. The end of the prep is 6 to 8 weeks after that. Which is like your post-show period, because people think, right, I finished competing, you're going to go out every single day now and eat burgers for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You're absolutely not. You have to probably have a couple days relaxed, straight back to plan, because otherwise you will end up being bigger than you started your journey as.
Wow.
I tell you, I can admit to this. After my first prep, I was afraid of food. I was scared of certain foods. Because like I was, it's like I want it so much, and like obviously everyone's like, "What's your meal you're gonna have?" But like, I'm like, you don't want it to go, because you still after the competition, you're still looking at it, you're going, and you still. So the next couple of days after is checking, see if it's still there. Still there. I bet this food is still there. And then it's like, oh, can I eat that? Oh, and it's like after I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna eat this, and then it all starts going in. And then you blink, and it's like,
I think what I had to realise was, it's gonna go. And it has to go. Especially from a female's health point of view. If I'd have stayed like that, I would never have regained my period. I would never have regained normal hormones. Your body doesn't function as a female like that. And I think that's something that people don't realise, that women have to go through as an athlete. Like, you're in a state where you're not functioning as a female should. So the weight gain has to happen. And that's something that allowed me to step away from the competing for that period of time and just think about your health. Because if you don't think about your health, you're never going to be able to compete again, because your health has to be at the top. And that was what I thought to myself. I said, look, and what? I haven't got abs anymore. But when I was sitting on my bum at home, it was hurting me, because I haven't got nothing there. And people would laugh at me when I said that. And I was like, no, it's not a joke. Seriously. It's funny to say, but I would sit on my sofa on 2 cushions because the bones on my bum were hurting me. And when I was driving, I'd have a cushion underneath me. And all sorts of stuff, and people just think it's getting shredded. It's not. There's so much stuff that goes into it that people don't see. And now I can sit down and I'm like, oh, it doesn't hurt anymore. So there's a lot of stuff that you have to consider, but I
love listening to this from like a female perspective, because I say I can speak to guys and like they can work on it, but like it's easy to, obviously not easy. I can see now that like you go for a hell of a lot more.
People never realise what you go through, and like, life happens as well. We're not pros. Well, I'm not. So you are, but I'm not. Like yeah, you are. I'm not. But you don't realise that you still have to work a 9 till 5 or whatever you do. You still have to live your life and bodybuild as well.
Yeah.
So you're prepping, but you have to deal with what life throws at you as well.
Yep.
So you're fighting battles all the way through, and people just think, yeah, she's just doing a cardio or she's just training. But what they don't know is, like, you was at home 2 hours ago crying about something, or you was upset about this, or something happened, and you have to still do it no matter what you go through. But I think people are just quick to say she's gone from this to this. She achieved this, she won this, or she came second in this,
social
or
media
third in this.
sees.
Yeah. And they don't realise the journey. And it's only actually probably the people that see you day to day, like your close people, that actually know what you went through as well. So
can I have a spin-off on what
Sure.
you just said? Because that's going on to my next question. Is what have been your kind of mental health struggles in and out? Well, we've kind of touched on the in stuff and the harder stuff, but for listeners that don't follow you, I'm sure we'll do after this. But for any woman or man, in terms of what have been your struggles, past, present, what have they been?
I still do, but not as bad now. Really suffer with like anxiety and anxiousness, and I think it comes from putting pressure on yourself. And I think if you put that much pressure on yourself, it's natural to get anxious. And I think there's a stigma that you shouldn't have. You shouldn't be anxious, you shouldn't be depressed, you shouldn't be upset, but actually they're all valid feelings, like, and you're allowed to feel that way. And I think my anxieties just came from wanting to have something that I haven't got yet. So it's that anxiety around, I'm not there yet. Why am I not there yet? And it's that constant pressure that you put on yourself. So I think that was something that I'd struggled with. And I think body image is something that I also really struggled with. Not so much before competing, because I was able to maintain just a healthy shape. So I was like, yeah, you're fine. I ain't got to worry about that. As soon as I jumped into competing, that's when body image issues started. Because you, as you said, you go from being this version of yourself, and then you go to being as I am now. And because in your head you're comparing yourself, you're constantly comparing yourself, and that's not good for your mental health, because comparison is just, it's a pointless exercise. Because it's not valid to compare yourself to that, because that's not my goal right now. My goal right now is to grow muscle and be healthy. So why am I going to compare myself to the unhealthiest look that you could be, basically? So I think they're my main ones, is struggling with like your body image. And as I said, when I finished competing, people that go to the gym that may listen to this will know, I'll be in the gym, I'll take my top off, top back on, jumper back on, top off, and I am constantly top on, top off, top on. And people must think, why is this girl getting changed and unchanged several times? But it's that body image, because you look in your mirror and you think, last time I looked in the mirror when I was competing, I had veins in my arms, like I had 3 lines in my shoulders, or you know, I could see teardrops in my quads and stuff like that. Now you look and you think, that's not there anymore. And it really does have that huge impact on your mental health, because you're not feeling satisfied with the way you look. But I think for me, to overcome that, I try and think about what my goal is to match with the body shape. So my goal isn't to be lean right now. My goal is to be healthy and grow. So that's the body shape I've got now. So love that body, because it serves a purpose for you. And every body shape you have serves a purpose, doesn't it? So when you're lean and you're on stage, the outsiders looking in, if you're in Tesco, people probably think, bloody hell, she's ill. People actually have said that to me. Not being rude, but are you ill or something? And I'll be like, And people have said that to me in the gym and things like that. And again, people don't realise that how that could affect your mental health. I had people in the gym say to me, fucking hell, what's happened? Or and sometimes like people don't think, and obviously I'm a female as well, so it's like, as a male saying that to me, I'm thinking, God, mate, you have no idea. You have absolutely no idea.
I had to pre-train that before.
Absolutely.
So when because my thing is just turn everything into a joke and just laugh about it. So when they say to me, oh, look at your face, I'll say, don't worry about your Hoover. I'm not going to steal. I don't need 20p. I don't need a pound. I'm all right. So I'm okay for crack cocaine this weekend. So I'm all right.
I'm good.
I'm good, thank you. But like, I'll tell you what, who helped me the most, my mom, because when you obviously your mom knows you,
Sure,
so when the first time when my mom saw my face kind of being gaunt and like shut down, I could see a look on her face, and I said, "It's just," and I just said to her, "It's just for the competition.
Yeah,
When it's over, this is me. It's over." And she was like, "Okay, cool." And she never, when she see me, she just like, "You okay? Oh, cool." And that's it.
Absolutely.
Good. So once I kind of got the okay from there, I was like, anybody else who's the community, I'm like, well, this
it's irrelevant.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's it, because obviously no one had ever seen me in that shape. No one had ever seen me in that shape. So people would say, "God, what's happened to your face?" or these things. And it's hard to say, don't care what other people think, because actually I think we all do to an extent.
To an extent, for sure.
People that are irrelevant to me, I'll just be like, oh, whatever. But people that you see in the gym day to day, you would like to think that's kind of an environment that it's like your work colleagues. You see them every day.
Yeah,
so people in the gym, you see them every day. So for them to comment initially, it's like the shock. And sometimes it's not their fault, because they're just, I guess, checking on your well-being to an extent. But you do think, oh, sometimes you go home and think, oh, do I really look that bad? And then you start second guessing. So again, that all links back to your mental health and your well-being. And then again, as a woman going into the gym after I've competed, you feel like you can't win, because when you're competing, you're like, God, you look like shit. You look tired. Your face has gone. You've got a pancake now. Your glutes have gone. You know, all this type of stuff. But then when you put weight back on, it's like, oh God, you're putting weight back on, can't you? And I'm like, oh my life, I can't win. So actually, you just have to shut out the noise and be like, look, I'm doing this for me.
Yeah.
This is my goal. This is what I want to achieve. And what anybody else has to say about it.
I think that's the difference within like, and yes, mate, I think, you know, you have to be like that. I think it's the difference within the gym environment. There's people who train and there's people who compete. There are two separate things.
And I guess you can't expect them to understand.
No,
either.
you can't.
And it's unfair to expect these people to understand, because they don't understand. So they may pass a comment and they don't mean it to be rude, but they just don't get it. And that's it, isn't it? They just don't get it. Like people that have never competed, you can't understand what it's like to compete because you haven't done it. So you are right when there's two. Because if I saw you in the gym, you wouldn't say, oh my God, look at your face, because you know why that's like that. Whereas my dad would look at me and think, what's going on here? And when I explained it to him, he didn't get it. He still didn't get it. He was like, I don't get why you're doing this. I don't get it, Jess. And then when I competed, I came off stage, came out the back, like outside, and my dad was crying. And he was like, I get it. He was like, I actually get it now. And I remember him saying that. And he hugged me and stuff. And he was like, I get it. So all those times when I've seen you in the morning, you're taking your supplements and you're eating your salad, or you're going in the morning to do this cardio. He was like, I did not get it. And he was like, you look like shit. But to him, I look like shit because it's not a normal look for day-to-day life.
Yeah. He knows what his daughter looks like. He knows
exactly. He was like, that you're not Jess that I know, Jess. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
But when I came off and I'd achieved a result, he was like, you know what? I get it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I like the look of it, because I'll be honest, I don't.
Yeah.
But I have to rate you for what you've done, basically. And that's eventually what people in the gym started saying. Like now, people will say, I love how you look now, Jess. You actually look better now. And I'm thinking, what are you on about? They're like, you look great for day-to-day life now.
Yeah.
You look so healthy. You've got a nice shape. Da-da-da-da. You've got energy. You probably feel great. But I have to rate you for what you achieved, because you've achieved that for a goal. So yeah, I think you have to see it from both points, don't you?
You've got to have some resilience, don't you?
I think when you're prepping, dieting, going to the gym, that's the easiest bit.
Oh, definitely.
It's the mental aspect of it all.
Absolutely.
What you have to deal with.
Yeah. One of my like lines to anyone is when you see you train in the gym or you look a certain way after prepping, I say, listen, this ain't the hard bit. I say this is a fun bit.
Yeah, this is the bit I like.
This is the bit where you don't have to think about food. You don't have to think about certain levels of conversation. You don't have to think about like battling because everything outside the gym prep time seems like a battle. Everything,
anything,
sleep, what you eat, what you drink, relaxing, sitting down, general conversations, where you go, your kind of your social circle. Everything has to change. But when you're in the gym, nothing changes. You can forget about it, absolutely everything. So hence why, like, sometimes when people say to me at the time, I'll train for 3 hours and 4 hours. I'd have like so much pre-workout. I'd be training. I'd do one of your ones, Amit. I'd be training for I'd watch 2 or 3 different sets of people come in and out.
Literally,
Come in and out.
The afternoon and evening crowd, you've been gone, and I'm still here.
Have you done that before as well, Jess?
Sure. I still do. I can't lie. I still do.
And obviously, you know about this. Like, you get in there, and it's almost like, I just don't want to get out there because it's much easier in here.
Yeah.
It was so much easier for me to keep on lifting weight. So I'd be in there for 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour. There's been times when I've been there for, let's say, 3.5, 4 hours. Mm-hmm. And like, even like flies or people like, you still here? I'm like, yeah. I'm just going to do this first.
Hazel used to say that to me. You still here? Yeah, I am actually, yeah. Still here.
No, that's wicked. That's wicked. Have you got another? Oh, I've got.
Let's
go. What do you feel about the industry, pros and cons? That's a good question.
How long do we have?
Come on, let's go.
Pros and cons. Let's go with the cons. Let's go with the fun ones. Let's go with the cons. Or
I think, why is everyone an online coach? And I'm quite blunt in what I say, but that's just me.
Nah, do it.
Why is everyone an online coach? And you've got people now that are coming through, 0 training experience, 0 physique. And I don't mean to discredit someone in that way, but what I mean is, like, you have to have had the knowledge in your own self to preach it to others. So you have to have achieved something yourself.
Yeah.
Even if that's a tiny goal, even if that was like a little diet that you've done or a little strength training program you've done, you have to have walked the walk to talk the talk.
Yeah.
Very
so
true.
Now it's like you've got 15-year-old boys, girls. I'm an online coach. Okay, for who? Who are you helping? How are you helping? So I think that's one of the biggest cons. And I think because social media is everything now, isn't it? Pretty much everything is social media. So it's easy for someone to go on Instagram, see the likes of you, say, and be like, yep, I'm doing men's physique next week. And they really do believe that can be done in say, not a week, but they can think, in 6 months' time, I'm going to compete. And people have trained for like 10 years and still not competed because they don't feel ready or that type of thing. So I think those are the main cons, really. Like, everybody deciding to be an online coach, maybe because it's popular or maybe because it's seen as a easy income stream, maybe, I don't know. And then the perception that everybody and anybody can compete, which, I mean, anybody can do what they set their mind to, but why do you want to compete? Like, why are you competing? Are you doing it because you love it, or are you doing it because you want a photo of yourself with your hair and your makeup done on stage in a tan
and looking absolutely shredded?
So I think there are the two for me that I think are the biggest cons with the industry now. And it's so saturated. It's like you've got this guy saying, dumbbells only, then you've got somebody saying, you should only use resistance bands, or you got somebody saying, do this on the cable, and you've got so much conflicting information. As a beginner, what do you do then? And then you seem to have this new era of bodybuilding coming through, and I don't know how I feel about that. Like, all kind of like the new exercises that people might try, and this new kind of style of bodybuilding. I think if it worked for Ronnie Coleman, I'm just going to follow that. That's what I'm just thinking. Even though now he's obviously paying a price for some of the ways he might have trained, I just think old school in my head, because I think if it works for them, it's got to work for me.
If it ain't, but basically, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
If it's not broke, don't fix it. People have trained like bodybuilders for years and years, and if you look, I always look back to the old school, the way they train, absolutely savage, don't they? It was pain.
That time either.
No, they didn't have Google. What exercise should I do for my chest?
Exactly.
That's true.
They just train hard. And I think it's overcomplicated now, what it is. And I think that's another one of the cons, is bodybuilding is and has been made overcomplicated when it isn't. It is literally train hard, sleep, eat. That's it. That's all it actually is. Whereas now it's like people focus on these little tiny things like, what exercise should I do for my tricep, or should I have cream of rice or oats? Like, it does not matter.
No.
Just train, eat, sleep. It doesn't matter. And I think that's the problem with the social media around bodybuilding and fitness, and the whole industry is, it's oversaturated, isn't it?
I think that everyone's always looking to reinvent the wheel.
Oh yeah.
When the wheel is already round, it's already in existence.
It's
already existence, and
it's been ticking over for God knows how long.
And it's almost like someone's like, well, let's make it a little bit more round. You can't get no more round in a circle.
I think people try and make it more, as you said, to capture a different,
trying to stand out.
to try and then develop a business.
Yeah.
But actually, just stick to the basic stuff. Like, I don't know if you've seen the big encyclopedia of bodybuilding.
I've heard of it,
It's
but I haven't.
literally like this big.
Yeah.
And I read through it, not now, but I have read through it.
Oh, wow.
And it's just got the basic stuff: barbell rows, dumbbell rows, bicep curls, dumbbell shoulder press. And now you've got somebody doing a shoulder press with 6 resistance bands, 6 resistance bands, sat on a foam roller, doing some crazy 1-arm, 2-arm, or whatever it is. And I'm like, if it worked for, as I said, if it worked for Ronnie Coleman, it's got to work for 16-year-old James who's starting out his bodybuilding journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think.
No offense to anybody called James out there.
Sorry, any Jameses. I wasn't aiming it at you.
But you know what? I'm so like it's refreshing to hear that, because like I see a lot of like people doing certain type of exercise and whatever, and I'm like this. I'm not going to say nothing about it. Obviously, you've seen something, so I'll leave you to it. The only time I may jump in if I see someone about to hurt themselves or doing something a little bit, I will say something. But like, there is so many different variations of things. And when I'm seeing, like you said, I totally forgot about that. When I'm seeing people strapping up loads of like different resistance bands to weights with a foam roller and something behind there and behind the neck, and doing it in this
doing it upside down.
I'm like, is it a dance move, or is it like, are you lifting a weight? Which part of the body is actually working? Because I know this works arms and back, this works shoulders, that works legs, hamstrings, calves.
That's what it is. And I think that has to be the biggest con of the industry, is that, and it all comes down to social media again. Like, if you see a girl that's got really big glutes and all she does is use a resistance band, young females are going to look at that and think, I need to do that. But actually what they don't realise is she's had surgery for a bum to look that way. And it's like false advertisement, isn't it?
Very true.
But I think it's hard now, because there's this new era of people doing certain things, and it's like, whose place is it to actually say, well, I would never go up to somebody in the gym and say, mate, don't bother. Even though I'd love to, I would love to go up to somebody in the gym and be like, mate, please just take those 12 resistance bands off and just do some dumbbell shoulders. But it's not your place, is it? Unless they're going to injure themselves, then you might have a word.
Can you debunk something for me, for us as a female? Right. No, have you seen this? Have you seen this? The assisted press where you kneel on it.
I know exactly what he's going to say.
You kneel on it, or
I know exactly what you're going to say. You're going to say, girls standing on it.
When they put, what does that do, Jess?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. It's glutes.
In my opinion, I think it does fall.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Okay,
but it's glutes and hamstrings, though, isn't it? Meant to be.
Yeah, because obviously if you're pushing down, ultimately it's going to work your leg, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you just go and do an RDL? Why don't you go and do a split squat? Why don't you go and do a barbell squat? Why don't you go and do a seated curl? Yeah. Just go and do something normal.
They've seen that somewhere. That's what it is.
You've seen it on Instagram with a girl who's probably had a Brazilian bum lift and thought, you know what, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Or, that they've had, I don't know, whatever surgery it is that makes your waist smaller or whatever.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Whatever surgeries there are, people think that they've achieved that through gym when they might not necessarily have. So I think, you've just got to keep it basic, haven't you?
I think people should have a responsibility when they're following to give real content and not that kind of stuff. I think it's with all TikTok and everything now, with the big followings you can have, and if you get good streaming on there, and they're just doing it for money, financial gain, and I think they do need to have a responsibility.
There's no way of what's the word? Yes, right? That's the word I was going to say. Yeah, there's no way of kind of filtering the shit, basically.
Because there's so much.
You can post whatever you want.
Yeah.
If I decide to post some bullshit today, I can, and there's nobody that's going to delete my video for that.
Yeah.
So nobody can monitor what's uploaded, and that's the problem, because I could upload a video today saying, I think barbell squats are the best exercise to grow your legs, and then the next person could put, I think hack squats the best.
True. People forget that everyone's body composition is very, very different, and one of the things I've always said. You could have had an accident, or I could have had an accident when I was 10 years old, and it could have been something which kind of broke my arm or my arm's set in a different way. So if you're saying to me the best way to hold it is like this, and I'm saying, well, I can't hold it like that because my bone is set this way. So when I do it, it puts pain into there, so it doesn't really work out for me. Or just like your general makeup. So
it's an individual approach. One size doesn't fit all. It doesn't fit all. And I think I might do an exercise that really works for my hamstrings that you may do and think, I do not feel that in my hamstrings at all. So you just wouldn't do it. So I think people might not realise that as well. Just because you see a famous person on Instagram doing that exercise doesn't mean that's going to be the right thing for you. And that's when we have to rely on the coaches in the industry to filter that. But again, it comes back to when you've got coaches when you've got such a variety of coaches, it's like, what's right, what's wrong, what do I do, who do I go to? So it can be confusing actually for young people coming up, not even just bodybuilding, but fitness and health.
For sure.
I think it can be confusing for people. And it's a shame really, because fitness, health and exercise isn't confusing. It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be confusing.
It shouldn't be. It should be do what feels good. Forget bodybuilding, just do what feels good. If I don't enjoy running, I ain't going to go running. So don't do it. Go for a walk, do what you enjoy, isn't it? So
definitely. And there's so many obviously you're not face to face as much now, but with face to face, there are coaches that give every single client the same type program. Even
the same food plan.
Like barbell work with someone who doesn't want to do barbell work, but they just go, they just, because it's that they enjoy it, the coach enjoys it.
It comes back to the goal, doesn't it? It comes back to, again, we're not talking about people that compete now, we're just talking about the general population. And 9 times out of 10, the general population either want to lose weight or not gain weight in that way, but get muscly or put on size. So everybody's going to have a different goal. So if I want to lose weight and the next person wants to gain weight, why are you on the same food plan? Why are you on the same exercise plan? It doesn't make sense, but it's an easy way for someone to make money for less time, isn't it? If I've got a standard plan that I'm selling to somebody, it's easy for me to duplicate that across 10 clients than spend 2, 3, 4 hours devising 10 separate plans, isn't it?
Yeah, very true.
So that's why people do it, I would say, because it's easy.
No, pretty much right. Yeah,
and you can save time and you still make the same money.
Another thing as well, because people don't talk. Obviously, it's client confidentiality thing. So if you've got like 20 clients, and like none of them know each other, you all give them all. You're
never going to know.
They're never going to know. No. But like I remember, like I was given something once, and then like I kind of looked at it and I showed someone. I was like, "Well, John, that is very generic. That is like the most generic kind of like plan for anyone to use. I'm sure I'm sure I know somebody else who used that one as well. I'm sure they know somebody else who used the same thing as well. But like ultimately, it's like just to take like weight away. It's just calorie deficits as well know. So, but like if you, a lot of time it's just like the way they word things, or they trying to put it. It's all the same.
Yeah, it is. It's all the same. Yeah. We haven't even touched on the pros.
Yeah, we haven't. Have we?
I was going to mention something to you, Jess. In terms of pros, what would you say? What skills did you acquire in your prep?
A lot.
Transferable skills.
A lot. Yeah, I think the key one is I was consistent anyway, or disciplined, one or the other, but they kind of come hand in hand, don't they? That teaches you discipline that life can't. Well, I guess it can in a different way, but it teaches you discipline that you can transfer around other elements of your life, because with that prep, you cannot deviate from plan. You cannot. You just cannot. So if you're then working towards a financial goal, maybe you want to buy a new car and you need 20 grand, you're going to be disciplined with, I need to save £200 a month for X amount of time. And you can transfer that discipline across, can't you? And I just think mental strength, because it doesn't matter what happens to you. You have to get up the next day and do your cardio. You have to.
5-4 in the morning, is it? Stupid.
Never me. That was never me.
Was that never you?
No. Never me. 4 or 5 a.m. It's got to be about 7 for me. But never that time. But essentially, if something was to happen, you have to get up and do it the next day, and that's life, isn't it? Though that's not just prep. That's life. If something knocks you down, you stay down. You have to get back up, don't you? So I think that was what prep taught me in a big way, really, because if anything that happened to me during prep, the next day I had to get up, train, eat my meals, do whatever I had to do. So I think they're the main ones for me, really. Yeah.
And then also just saying that you meet like-minded good people in
That's
this
one of the best things.
Yeah,
like
the ones that you
industry.
connect with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we're doing now, you know.
Absolutely. That's one of
Yeah.
the pros, though, isn't it? Of the industry, that actually, it's actually a really good industry. It's very positive, and people are very like-minded. Like, I might not know somebody in the gym, but within 3 weeks of saying hello, you okay? Actually, they become part of your, not necessarily your circle, but your environment. And you're so like-minded because you're in the gym ultimately for the same reason. It might not be that they want to compete, but you've got that linear goal with these people. So I think I've met some of my closest friends through bodybuilding because you are so similar.
Yeah.
And even though you might not see eye to eye sometimes because you are so similar, meeting people and networking and being around people is one of the big pluses to it, I think.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's great.
Do you know, I've even connected with people that don't have English as the first language.
Really?
But because we're on the same
yeah.
environment.
You can,
you competed abroad, didn't you? So you bet.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I was going to say to you, you mentioned earlier about goals, and you said one of the things when you said about your mental health, you said, when I came out of competing, I had to shift my goal. Because if I didn't shift my goal, then I would stay in that place.
Sure.
What is your current right now as we speak? What is your focus and goal right now?
Sure. Well, for me, after I competed once, I knew I had to do it again because that's just me.
Yeah.
So I knew I'm going to have to give this another go to do better. So my goal essentially was, I came third at the British finals in my first season. So ultimately, I want to beat that. So I guess competing, like, I think you'd be lying if you said you didn't want to win, right? Like, it's very easy to say. It's very easy to say. It's very easy to say, oh, I'm just doing it because I enjoy it. I do, but I'm also doing it to do well.
Yeah.
So that was my goal really in my head initially. And my coach said, yeah, let's go for it then. Let's take some time off, come back, beat your old you and do it again. So that's my goal really, just to beat the old me.
Yeah.
That is the goal really, to be bigger.
I love that.
Bigger than what I was. Maybe get leaner than I was, maybe take the skills that I learned from prep 1 into my next prep. But the goal now is just to put on some size, get bigger, get stronger, again, make sure my health is in a really good spot. So one of the big priorities for me, and it is a goal actually, to get my health 100% back, because you don't realise how your health does deteriorate in that
Very
state.
much.
So make sure my blood work's done, and I won't compete again until my health is there. I don't care if that takes 2 years or 3 years.
That's a great
My goal is my health has to be there, because if you haven't got health, you haven't got anything, have you?
Exactly.
So that's my goal, and just to grow, improve, and then ultimately, I think I'll probably start prep again in January next year and go for like an earlier season, because I did the later part of the season last time. So I did like, your September, kind of October shows where I'd like to do something a little bit earlier and experience that. So in a nutshell,
that's
it.
Wicked.
Yeah.
I love this, Jess, because we've been talking like everything that like I've kind of got written down. You've got to it straight away. So I'm like,
just read your mind.
Just you've saved me a lot on there. But that's what I was going to ask you, like when you're going to compete again. But like obviously,
I mean, I think I don't care about being a pro, really. I don't actually care about being a pro. That's not why I compete. My goal isn't I want to be a pro. I do it because I want to better myself every time.
Yes.
So for me to compete again, it doesn't actually matter when I go again, because there's no rush, there's no time scale, and I'm still young, so I've got years ahead of me to potentially do it. But as I said, I'd like to compete again in January, and at least then I finished competing in October last year, so it'll have basically been a whole 12 months off.
Yeah.
And I think you need that though, don't you?
Yes.
I think, again, from a female point of view, I can't understand how women prep
back to back.
They do it, and I think, God, fair play to you. But for me, I just don't think I could do it, because my body is not healthy at that point. So a goal for me was you've got to get your health back.
Yeah.
And also, like, anybody listening to this, like, you need to understand that. Even myself, I'd only do like maximum to 2 to 3 shows a year, and then that'd be it.
That's it. Done.
Someone gave, say, like, obviously, someone gave me some good advice like some years ago. His name's Dave from the gym. He said to me, John, don't be a trophy collector. just go for what you really want. Go for the main things that you really, something what really means to you. Because like obviously competitions are going to be there every other month, and if you've got like someone, especially if you're like working with a coach who just wants you to keep on doing stuff so it kind of reflects on them, you have to, what you just said first, your health comes first, because if your health is deteriorating, your coach is out of the job. Well, he's not out of a job, he'll just go on to the next person.
If your health deteriorates, you can't compete. You can't compete. And I think people take that for granted, because if your health isn't there in the first place, how are you going to withstand a 20-week prep? You're not going to be able to do it, and ultimately you're going to make your health worse. And like, for people that are listening that don't compete or haven't competed and keep hearing us say that it's unhealthy, people might look at the lean bodies on stage and think, wow, they must be really, really healthy. And that is the opposite of health. Especially at that moment. At that moment in time, most people who are on stage are not in the best place. They're in the best place visually, but they're not in the best. It's only visual, isn't it? It's only visual. And actually, like, you are in the most unhealthiest body that you could be in, because we're supposed to have body fat, especially women. We carry more body fat than men anyway, right? But as women, you have to have body fat to function as a female. If you want children, if you want a monthly cycle that's going to be regular, you know, you have to have that. So you are really not in a healthy spot. So I think, and even people that consider competing for the first time that might listen to this, like, you need to actually really understand that you're taking yourself to an unhealthy place, and are you prepared to do that, basically?
Wow.
Is it worth the goal? For me, it was. For me, taking myself to that spot to achieve what I achieved was worth it. If you don't think it is, then don't do it, basically.
I've got a quick... Can I go? We've heard about Jess in the fitness world. We want to know about, and the listeners want to know about the Jess outside of that. What do you do for work? What do you have partner, family? Do you have other hobbies around? How close you are with your parents? All this kind of stuff that you mentioned.
You said something then, I forgot what you said. Tell me again.
Oh, really?
You said something then that led my thought. And
it's basically the Jess outside of the fitness world. So family could be kids, partner, could be hobbies, anything around that, but also what is it that just gets you going daily outside of fitness? And what do you, and I'll follow another question after that. Cool.
Well, outside of gym fitness, obviously I do actually do like a 9-to-5 normal job. And I do like community development stuff. So I work within like deprived communities, basically, that lack the tools they need to be physically active. So actually it does relate back to fitness again. So even though it's my job is actually fitness, so it's not actually me outside of fitness, but it is, because that's my job, basically. So I work with deprived areas and just helping support community groups, organisations to facilitate physical activity opportunities, just because I can afford a £20 gym membership. Some people can't. And it opens my eyes actually to barriers that people face that aren't that can't do what we do for financial barriers or childcare, whatever the barriers are. So it might actually be supporting somebody with the nearest clothes bank so they can go and get some clothes just to go for a walk or go for a run. So that's my job, and it's actually really nice to see the opposite side. So I do that, and I also teach children how to swim. So that's a little thing I do as well. I really enjoy that. I've done that since I've been like 15, so nearly 10 years now. So I do that as well, and obviously all my PT and online coaching stuff. So that's me kind of there. Hobbies, I'll be honest, I don't really. Gym is my hobby. Gym is my hobby, but I love my food. I love my food. Like, that's my hobby, actually. Eating, I'll be honest, eating. That's my hobby, really. I like going out for good food, and especially now you're in the off season, right? You can do that a little bit more. So I enjoy that. And in terms of family and stuff, it's just me. I have no kids, no partner. It's peaceful like that, though. It's peaceful like that.
Sure is.
And I think for that as well, like, you only want someone that's going to benefit you and add value to your life. And I think something that I've learned, like, is if you can't be happy on your own, you cannot be happy with someone. So I think it's important to spend that time on your own and develop your own self. So then when you meet someone, you're not relying on them for your happiness. They're just adding to your happiness.
Definitely.
So I'd rather be by myself than be with someone that can bring you down. So I think until that day comes, I'm just happy in my own little bubble.
Very content.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm content as I am, really. So I think if I meet someone, it's got to be, adding value to me. And you can challenge me as well, because you want someone that's going to bring you up, not just keep you where you are. You want someone that's going to add impact to your life, really.
Those dumbbells don't argue back, do they?
They don't speak back.
The barbell,
throw them down and they won't say anything.
And ultimately, when you're on prep, right, you don't want someone in your corner that's going to be dragging you back.
Yeah,
so,
one doesn't get it.
For me, when I was on prep, I was kind of isolated. I chose to actually isolate myself, saying that. But yeah, outside of bodybuilding, there's not much outside of bodybuilding, because that's
wicked.
That's my stuff. But before I started bodybuilding, I used to do martial arts for Great Britain.
Oh, so really?
Yeah, so that's kind of how I got into fitness, and that's how I've got this discipline, because when you do a martial art, it's all about that discipline. And I used to have to get up before school, do what I needed to do, go to school, train. My mum used to drop me at training for 3-4 hours. I'd train, eat, go back to sleep. And when I was younger, I missed out on, I wouldn't say I missed out, but I used to choose that over, I'm not going to this party, I'm not going out on this social event, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, because I'm training. And I lost a lot of people when I was younger for that, because I couldn't understand why I didn't want to go and do that. But that sport was really important to me, and I did it for nearly 10-11 years, so that was a big part of my life. So that's kind of the background of how I got into this as well. So I guess that was a big hobby as well.
Yeah, because when you speak, you sound like you've got really you're older than your age.
Yeah,
like an old soul. They would say, you've been through a lot. You've been very disciplined, and this is probably what you've transitioned from that martial arts stage is coming into exactly what you're doing now.
Yeah,
but it's good. I mean, naturally, women mature quicker than men anyway. Don't they? So, but like I say, it seems like you've. Your transition and what you're doing right now is inspiring. But like I say, you work with women specifically. But I'm like I say, it transitions over to men as well. What you're doing in your focus, and some of the things you've said today, all of the things you said today, have been really inspiring, and I'm sure really knowledgeable for people to understand the industry. Because I've learned,
female point of view,
I've learned for sure.
Yeah, and I've learned about this.
If I see you doing that, I will never speak to you again. But actually, if we do see anyone do that in the gym, we're not hating.
That's true.
So
I'll just give you a nod, Jess. I'll just go.
Look over there, kind of thing. Yeah, I'll be like, that's your turn.
Just give them some advice.
Yeah, that's it.
Now there's something better for you.
No, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Jess, it's been absolutely amazing having you on, and thank you being obviously we all get like a guest each. Obviously, I've chosen you as my guest, that Baz has chose his, and then next week Amit. But it's been very insightful, because I've learned things about you which I never knew. And as I said before, sometimes when we're in the gym and when we train, we only know someone from obviously, they're good at squats, or they're good at legs, or they do this, that, the other, but we know nothing else.
I think it's important to acknowledge that as well, though, because you never actually know what someone goes through and where they've come from.
Exactly
so
that.
I might say hello to you in the gym and actually chat to you for a while, but you don't actually know the person behind closed doors, do you? So, it's important to then just remember that. I always think that in the gym. If I see somebody in the gym, I always am conscious that I don't actually know what they've been through, not just today, but in life. So you just let them do the thing, don't you? You just let them do your thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
No, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jess.
Yes,
and
thank you.
I really enjoyed it, so it's been good.
Yeah, it's been great having you on,
Thank
for sure. And so to all our listeners, it's going to be available on all podcast streams and visually on YouTube as well. So thanks for listening, guys.
Also, one last thing, Jess, is there anything that you want to plug? Any of your website, your social media, or any of your sponsors or anything like that?
Yeah, sure. I just do everything through my Instagram, which is, you've already put it on my Instagram.
Yeah, we'll get it on the info.
My Instagram's up there, and you'll find everything on my Instagram. Really, I'd run everything through there. So if you want to just look at that, then you can. Yeah.
Okay. Super.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Thanks
again, Jess.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, listeners, and we'll see you for episode 4.